the women that are past the wall, even though John is right that your window of highest opportunity might have passed, that doesn't mean you're going to be old and alone. If you make an impact on people in a good way and you have a good character and good standards, you can be happier than a lot of people.
And I can tell you from my own experience in life, because I had left my first marriage. It had nothing to do with her getting older or looks. It had to do with how I was being treated for me. And in doing how I did things was not right. I would never condone what I did. But still, I can tell you, honestly, that was not the factor. It's not. And then also, on the flip side, when I met you, I was at a point where I was at my peak in the sense that I was dating a lot of young women, a lot of young, beautiful women. But what stood out about you, besides you being young and beautiful, is that,
Well, I was 28.
Well, yeah. I was dating women that were younger, right?
Which is not old.
No, it's not old.
Some
but
men
I'm just
would
saying it's
say
like
old.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting out there that I was 28, which some men would call old.
Right. Some men would call
because
old. Sure.
I want people, also segue into the older women.
Right.
That isn't the end of the world.
Right. So there was plenty of women that if I wanted to have a long-term relationship with them, I certainly could have. Again, that was wrong, but I'm just speaking the truth.
Yeah.
So, but what stood out about you was your character, was the feminine core that you had and how you showed up and how I remember just how delighted you were to show me the pictures on your phone. And I was like, she's so sweet. And I remember that. And that just, it warmed my heart. I was like, wow, I can see sitting in bed, looking at pictures on the phone, like I could see that.
And now here we are.
But it impacted me. It wasn't just young and hot, right? I mean, that was an element of it. I mean, you are, for sure. But that's important. You know what I mean? To realize that was, it wasn't that I didn't have, like had no plans of settling down.
Right. But that's why you can change a man's mind who maybe is kind of stuck in the, well, no, why do I need to settle down with one person when I can just be with all the hot women or whatever, but that's why the standards and the substance and, the things that make you unique matter a lot. Like I would say more than the looks. I understand that men, they're going to go for looks, but I also understand that if you're somebody that makes an impact on people, it doesn't matter how you look.
Yeah, it's more important in the sense that it is still relevant to think about as a woman that obviously there's a time where as you're younger, you're going to be at kind of the peak opportunity and that will fade down over time. But it also isn't to say that no matter, because hey, sometimes you're just dealt the hand you're dealt with. You could be young and still not be as attractive as women who are older or whatever, or your peers, right? But that doesn't mean that a man's not going to pick you because there's a sufficient level of attraction that needs to be there, that the guy needs to find you sufficiently level of attractive where you're in the game. But if you're in the game and your character is much higher quality than other women that may be more attractive than you, the guy is going to pick, the quality man is going to pick you. That's true. I can 100% attest to that because I have seen it happen. And I have coached a lot of guys and I have helped a lot of guys become very successful with women. And after they've become successful with women, they have told me two things. One is that I don't want to keep on living this life. I want to find someone that I can just be with. And they've had the hot women. That's not their top priority anymore. Now they're like, yeah, she needs to be hot enough that I'm attracted to her, but I'm looking for other qualities. And so that's the truth of it. So you're right on.
Well, and if being hot enough was enough, then they wouldn't be over that. Like if just being young and hot was enough and sleeping with women was enough, you'd still be doing it. Yeah. That's all I'm saying is that women, and especially to segue into the women that are past the wall, which I'm one of those women, according to the technical age that a lot of people say, like even though John is right that your window of highest opportunity might have passed, that doesn't mean that you're going to be old and alone or whatever angry men on the internet want to try to tell you.
Right.
Because like I said, if you make an impact on people in a good way and you have a good character and good standards, you can be happier than a lot of people who got married and might have like a successful husband, but they're living this lonely, miserable life. Like that doesn't justify that you can't still have the relationship that you want in a relationship like you and I have. Because earlier when I was getting ready, I mean, this was going to be our other episode that we were going to do. I'm not going to go like full blown into it, but you know, the belief that I always had that was solid was that I'm not going to get married unless I have the relationship that I wanted. And I know that it was a really high bar to have.
Yeah.
It was really high. And you know, my parents are still together, but they don't have the romantic, loving relationship like you and I have. So I didn't have like them to look up to, but I was like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I want this. If I'm getting married, I want this sort of relationship.
Yeah.
The relationship that you and I have, actually, the relationship that you and I have is far beyond even the one that I had in my mind. But people used to tell me, maybe you should lower your standards, or, you know, maybe you should, like, that's kind of like a fairy tale or a rom-com or whatever. Like, that's not going to happen in real life. But I never believed them. And I would have genuinely waited till I was 50, 60 years old if I had to for a love like you and I have to come around. And I mean that because
I believe
I'd rather have been on my own and not settled, even for the love. It didn't even really matter about the man. It mattered about the love, which is also a key for both the younger women and older women to have, is that have less standards on what the man looks like, or even his job or things like that, or his status or whatever, and have more standards on the love that you want to have, the relationship you want to have, because that's the standards I really had. And even if you and I lost everything and we had to be in a box right now, I'd still be happy because it's the love that you and I have. And so it's not the end of the world if you're past the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what women who are over 27, is that like that's just so young.
It depends.
Let's say 30.
I think
like 27 sounds so young to me.
I feel like 30 is but again, it's not a hard and fast thing. Some people are, it's just, and also if you party a lot and do a lot of drugs, then it's going to come quicker. You know, even with guys, I mean, some rock stars are like, damn, this guy's only like, 30. He looks like he's 60.
Well, now they're all really old, but
but I'm talking about that. But the point is, it doesn't matter where exactly it is. You just have to understand that there's some point where things are going to drop off more dramatically, right?
But I'm just saying,
but it's not the end of the world. It's really not, because the thing is, but there are some expectations that are expected of you as a woman that is an older woman. At this point, you better have your shit figured out, right? Like,
what is that? Like who you are?
You better have some kind of spiritual and emotional development. Like, you've had a lot of time. If you bring in a ton of baggage, right, that you haven't worked your own shit out and done your own self-work, it's not good.
Well, I feel like any older person, older than 35, maybe even 30, to be honest, in this day and age. If someone is very set in their ways, aka like not having a growth mindset or wanting to better themselves, they're not changing. They're not changing. Like, it would take a miracle for them to change, because the older people get, the more set in their ways they get. And so if you're, like you said, like the baggage, and like, if you're not emotionally intelligent or like at the level where you should be by the age that you are, that is going to be a huge red flag for anyone, like man or woman, like, that is a huge red flag, because it's probably not changing. I'm not saying it can't at all, but the older people get, the more stuck in their ways they are, because they've already been doing this for however many years.
Well, and a lot of the guys I coach, the complaint that they have about women that are older is that they're carrying a lot of baggage. They got a lot of shit that unpack. Sometimes even on the first date, they're unpacking all this stuff. And it's like, I get it. You had a hard life. Like, you probably went through a divorce or whatever. You got to deal with that stuff. You can't just keep on bringing it forward. Like, you got to take the time and actually like deal with that, so that you can be, have that growth mindset and radiate that feminine energy. You can't be bitter and I hate men and all this stuff, right? And you definitely better not be feminist at that point if you're thinking you're going to attract a guy, like a quality guy, because he's not going to tolerate, right? So, I mean, this is the truth of it. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't, do what you want to do and live your life, but the man hating at that stage, it could be tolerated in the 20s. It's definitely not going to be tolerated in the 30s and 40s. It's just not.